thank you, first of all, for having me on this platform. It's really a blessing to be able to, be on this show. I feel so special, just to be able to do what I love to do, and that is encourage and inspire people. And I'm, like you said, I'm all things leadership, and so I believe in helping other people learn how to lead. So yes, thank you for having me.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm excited because we have some great questions for you. And so I definitely want us to dig into it right now because we only have but so many minutes. So you ready, Lisa?
I'm ready to rock and roll. Let's do it. Yes.
Let's rock and roll. Let's rock and roll. So, first and foremost, because you know so much about leadership, define the term for me. What is leadership?
Wow. So that's almost a loaded question, or I like to call it, because the word leadership has been defined over and over and over again for centuries. And the act of leading a group of people in an organization, or the ability to lead, but in a state of being in a position of a leader. And I'm really in tune with the fact that when you're trying to define a word and you use the word in the definition, I really don't still know what the word means. So as a college professor, I tell my students, when I teach leadership, I say, you know what? Define leadership for me without using the word leader in there. And so they'll say words like guidance, direction, management, control, superintendent, supervision, things of that nature. But these are great words to describe leadership. But my definition of leadership is the ability to influence people, empower their mindset, and guide them to a place where they can grow. And that's my personal definition of leadership. And so that's actually where I got the name of my business, Leaders Grow Leaders, because I believe that leaders begat leaders, begat leaders, begat leaders. And so it's basically the ability to influence people, encourage and empower their mindset, and guide them into a place where they themselves can grow. So that's my definition.
Wow. And so, you know what? I want to go off script just a little bit because you touched a nerve right there.
Okay.
And so in that, because I love the definition that you gave. So what would be more empowering, a leader who inspires or one who motivates, or do they go together?
I believe there's an art to leadership. You have to know how to.
Is that a loaded question?
Yeah, kind of, sort of, but there's an art to it. You've got to learn how to balance the two, to inspire and to motivate. So they kind of work hand in hand, if you will, because one who motivates is one you kind of have somebody standing on the sideline saying, go, 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 go. And then you have somebody who's inspiring you that says they're pushing you from the bottom saying, you know what, I see this in you. I see that you can do it. So motivation and inspiration are kind of, there's synonyms, if you will. And when it comes to leadership, you have to know the art of having all of those things to balance out and be that good leader for those individuals.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, thank you so much for adding that in, because I think it is so necessary, because you have leaders out there that literally they have the power because they have the influence, and they're still, I'm finding out sometimes you find so many of them still trying to find their way. I believe none of us have arrived. The steps to go and continuously learning on our own and continuously evolving ourselves.
Exactly.
I believe you have to
always grow. The tagline to Leaders Grow Leaders is lifelong learners grow here. I will never arrive. I don't care how many degrees I have, how much I learn. I can learn something every single day of my entire life. And I often say the day that I say I've arrived is the day that I need to leave this earth, because then nobody else can tell me anything and I can't learn anything. So I will never arrive. So I put that's one of my mantras that I share with those that I am mentoring. Yes.
That's good. That's good. Okay, so let's go down to the next question here. What are the characteristics of a true leader?
So let's see. True leadership, actually. So let's say this first. There's really no playbook for leadership. There's a whole the age-old adage that says leaders are leaders born or are they made, and the answer is actually both. People are born leaders, and then you can actually see something in people and make them into a leader. So but a lot of times the first thing people see is they're being in charge of people. I'm in charge of someone, so that means I'm a leader, but it's not necessarily that. True characteristics of leadership include, first and foremost, I always say, true transparency, right? Someone who can admit that they don't have all the answers is a great leader, right? And so I'll be the first person to tell you, I will always say to you, if I don't know the answer to that, I'm going to go grab it for you. And it's going to be a learning moment for both of us, right? So also, I believe the characteristics of a good leader is understanding the difference between being in charge and being in control. And that sometimes when I say that to people, I do management sessions. And every time I say that, their eyebrows go up like, oh, wow, I never thought about that. I never considered that. Yeah, true leaders understand the difference, because there's a difference between being in charge and being in control of people. When you're in control of people, you're managing and that's another thing. Leadership and management are a little bit different as well, but we'll talk about that another time. But managing certain aspect of them and being in charge of them is just is kind of guiding them through and pushing them ahead. The other thing I like to say is a servanthood. Right. If you can't follow, then you can't lead. If you have never served, you can't be a great leader. So many people want to lead. They want to get their little briefcase, their clipboard and whatnot, right? But you've never served as anything. You never served anybody.
Right.
So when you become a leader, you have to learn how to serve. And the very last thing I like to say, characteristics of a good leader, somebody who is relatable and touchable. Any person that has ever inspired has been somebody that I can simply reach out and touch. If you get to a point where, I don't care who you are, from the CEO to the janitor, I'd rather have a conversation with the janitor most of the time because they're so humble. But I want to be able to say that about the CEO too. So leaders who are touchable and relatable are these are great characteristics of a good leader. So yeah.
That's good. That's good. You know what? I know when I was in school, when I was back in college, and we had a leadership challenge, and I simply fell in love with it. And we always have all these books, and these books are so expensive when you're in school. And a lot of times we are in school and we take our books back and get money back for them, even though we don't get back as much money that we wanted. But girl, there was this leadership challenge book that I fell in love with. And to this day, I always go back to that book because I think it's so necessary for us to truly, truly understand what leadership is. And just like you touched on it, it's servanthood too. Yes. And it's so much to it. And, I'm loving this conversation. And I have another question for you, because you already know the crisis we're in right now, the presidency and the boards and all of that stuff. And boy, I got a lot to say. I don't know. I don't want them to ban me on YouTube, but let's keep moving forward. But I want us to touch on that before we leave here this afternoon, because I believe it is so necessary. Right. Okay, so now let me ask you this question. What would you say? How can leaders empower others to turn adversity into advantages, especially in untimes? What would you say in regards to?
So let's see. There's a book by Napoleon Hill called Think and Grow Rich. And in his book, he talks about the benefit to every single failure. So after, reading that book and being familiar with it, I kind of turned that into something called failing phenomenally. Right. So I have a keynote speech that's called Failing Phenomenally. And I'm also writing a book. That's a shameless plug right there, but it's called Failing Phenomenally. And it basically
I love it.
It speaks to the adversity and the failures of people. Now, we never like to talk about the challenges that we go through. We want to put this face on that says, you know,
Right.
everything's good, everything's fine. But we in this world today, we all know we're not okay. Everything is not fine, right? So, in
No.
order to empower people, what I like to do is I like to tell people that you can realize that, you know, there's going to be failure in everything. We have failed in something. I often say, if you've never tried anything, if you've never failed, you've never tried anything, right? And so pulling yourself
Right.
together and learning a lesson from your failure, give yourself permission to fail, because a lot of times people feel like once they have failed and this turns into adversity, that is when you have to really understand, okay, how do I fix this? You basically pick yourself back up. You don't stop there. You give yourself permission to fail. You pull yourself together, learning a lesson from that failure. And then
Yeah.
you realize, like Napoleon Hill, again, I'm going to pull from his book, you reap the benefit of each failure and every adversity that you go through in your life. You learn the lesson. When you fail, you can fail phenomenally because you're going to fail. The second thing I always say is setting goals. So anybody who follows me on any of my social media platforms, they know I am a stickler to setting goals. And so when it comes to adversity, you have to be able to empower yourself to say, you know, what are the advantages? I've told people during this COVID-19, we have had a tremendous slowdown in our life, right? So since we're slowing down in our life, and since our life is very, very, I won't say relaxed, but we have a moment to just take some time to do a few things. So I've challenged people to set some goals, right? And that means sitting down,
Right.
using technology and writing those goals down. It's not enough to say, yeah, I have all my goals up here, because everybody knows that a goal that's still inside your head is just a wish. That's all it is. It's a thought. It's a wish. So I've challenged people to write down those goals.
Right.
Number one, write down 3 goals: a short-term goal, a long-term goal, and a flexible goal. Something that you can achieve in the next month, the next year, or 5 years. And then maybe a life change, you know, more so a goal that doesn't have an end date. But once you write those goals down, you give each of those goals an end date, right? And then you say, this is what I'm going to work for. And then you speak those goals aloud. Talk to yourself in the mirror, just like we're doing right now. I'm looking at myself and something. Look in the mirror and say, these are things I'm going to do. And it seems corny at that moment, but when you're in adversity, you ain't got nothing else to do but have some hope, right? Yeah. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, you know what? This is what I'm going to accomplish at this day, at this time. Write it down on a sticky note. Put it on a mirror somewhere you go a lot. Like I put mine on the refrigerator because I go in there a lot. Put that goal on a sticky note. Stick it on the refrigerator or in your bathroom or somewhere you see all the time. And every single day you repeat that goal to yourself. I will finish school. I will write that book. I will do this. Because in the time of adversity, all we have is our hope. We have a hope in God, right? And then we also have we hope in ourselves, which God helps us to do things. So I'm very, very specific when I speak in regards to goals, because I'm very passionate about it. And so the more you seek to a solution, to find the benefit in that obstacle or during that adversity, the more you're going to find what's good for you and achieve those goals. So set some goals and realize that failure is not an option, but it's actually a fact. And when you fail phenomenally. Just get back up and do good. So those are my 2 things.
So basically just brush those shoulders off, get up and keep going.
Exactly. Donnie McClurkin said it best.
Pretty much.
Yeah, but we get up, dust yourself off and get back up. It sounds easy to do, but sometimes it's harder to do, and you have to encourage yourself to do it.
Right. And so then, because you touched on some things, because we talk about transparency. And so would you say to leaders, is it good, especially when we're in a crisis right now? Would you say it is good for vulnerability, or it's just to be strong times, especially now, where so many people are trying to find their way. As I said previously, coming off a ship on broken pieces, trying to get back to land.
Mhm.
So, what would you say when it comes to leadership? Should they show vulnerability or should they just show strength at all times?
So let's see. I love this question, actually. This is a good question. Again, you have to always have a balance in everything you do as a leader. There's a lot of things you've got to balance
Right.
out. Strength and vulnerability are two of those things. There's actually strength in vulnerability, believe it or not. So many people, again, are so many leaders,
Okay.
talking about leaders, so many leaders are so worried about what people think of them and how strong they have to look in front of other people. I can't
Right.
cry. I can't show emotion. There is actually a balance that you have to have that shows strength in times of weakness and vulnerability in time of strength. You have to actually,
Yeah.
balance the two and juxtapose them how they need to be. So vulnerability is actually a byproduct of leadership. So there's a sense of freedom
Mm.
that comes along with being vulnerable, right?
Mhm.
And if you ever find those leaders who don't show their vulnerable side, they're always so stiff and so, they just have this stern way about
Yeah.
them that they don't want to show their vulnerable side. And they don't want to be transparent enough to say, well, you know what?
Right.
I'm having a breakdown here. And then they go and they off themselves, right? They
Right.
have all this anxiety. And you would be so surprised what's her name? Brene Brown. She has a book,
Mhm. Yeah.
Daring Greatly, right? And she talks about vulnerability
Uh-huh.
being that uncertain risk and that emotional experience that you have with yourself. Leaders take risks anyway, every single day. And so
Yeah.
the unstable feeling that you get when you personally, go outside of your strong point and say, you know what? I just plain don't know at this moment. And when people see that you are human and you are able to show that
Right.
vulnerable side, there's actually strength in that vulnerability. So I think the two of them
Yeah.
it's a necessity for them to go hand in hand. So yeah, you've got to balance those things
Okay.
out. And I definitely believe, I think that I'm gonna say this last thing. I'm a very right brain thinker. I'm a creative. I love
Mm.
colors and numbers, not so much. But I love the big picture. Whereas a lot of times people are more left brain and they're very linear. Everything is black and white, no shades of gray
Mhm.
or anything like that. And so I think that's the balance in between. There's not a right or a wrong side of a brain. It's the same as vulnerability and strength. You've got that left brain that shows you that strength, and
Mm.
you've got that right brain that shows you that creativity. And you have to bond it together, and people need to see both sides at all times, if possible.
Yeah. And thank you so much for that because too, even for me, I love to see leaders who are strong, but however, I love to see the transparency.
Yes.
Because it makes me though, um, wow, I can fall. As we said previously, I can fall and I can get back up because the leaders do it as well. And
Exactly.
so I love transparency. I love vulnerability. I definitely believe it is necessary. And
Mhm.
then showing that you can get up from where you are. To
Absolutely.
me, it's just like a person. And it's something that is so phenomenal. I love to see when people get through obstacles and
Yes.
they are able to go to the next level.
Yes.
That's the person that can lead me. I love seeing things like that. And
Yes.
so let me ask you this: what made you um, develop your program? Founder of Leaders Grow Leaders. What was it that said, "Let me develop this program," or just jump into something of that magnitude?
Sure. So I worked for Kaiser Permanente for 20 years and loved everything that I did there. The organization was amazing to me. I was there. They helped pay for my education and all of the above. The last 6 years that I actually was
Mhm.
employed there, though, I didn't necessarily enjoy my job. Didn't like it. It was one of those things where you get up in the morning and you go to work to pay your bills. So at the time I was getting my master's degree and I
Right.
my master's degree on um, if you, I can't, well, the name of my master's degree is my actual thesis. But basically it was talking about being in the zone, right? It was talking about your finding your flow in your day. And I was never able to find my flow. There's an author called Malachi Csikszentmihalyi, that's how you say his name. And he talked about finding flow and being able to be okay. And at that time, I found out that 76% of the US population only is working their job to pay their bills. And that's all they do their job for. So I set out on a mission to say, you know what? I don't want the percentage. 76% of the US population is only working on the job they work in presently because they need to pay their bills, which means they don't enjoy what they do. They just do it because that's the work that they do, and they get a check every 2 weeks or every month or however you call it. I didn't want to be a part of that. And so I decided, how can I help people find their niche? How can I help people to say, you know what? I love my job. And so it took me about 8 years, but I started kind of gathering facts and doing things. And Leaders Grow Leaders just kind of came to me one day, the name, and I was like, that's redundant, but it really is redundant because leaders do grow other leaders. So the name was birthed out of the experience that I had with my organizational job. So presently, I own that business, and I go everywhere and I do all types of trainings. And you talked about the DISC personality assessment, and I go and I do that with people and got certified to do it, and just kind of on and on. And so when you birth something out of your own life's experience, it becomes less of a passion for you and more of a way of life. Literally, I'm passionate about it, but it is my work. And so that's how it was birthed, though.
And it's so necessary because you have so many people that are trying to find the way. And you do have people who are true leaders, and yet and still, they still need to go in for training, and they still need to go somewhere where there are people. And I think it was myself as well as Constance, we were talking one day as far as when you have leadership conferences, you want people that are instructing who are beyond. I mean, they are like the leaders or the instructors who are just on the next level when it comes to helping other people grow and helping people elevate to the next level. And so it literally made me think about so much in regards to that, because you have leaders sometimes, and let's talk about this before we end. We have a lot of leaders who don't even have someone to go to be able to lay their head on and just, shed a tear and are able to just show their vulnerability and weakness. What would you say to those people who are out there? Because you have a lot of people that are leaders and they have to hold everything on the inside because they feel that there's no one to talk to. Speak to those people out there that are in those positions and in those predicaments right now, because there are a lot, especially now that we're in this crisis and people are trying to navigate because everybody's pulling on them. What would you say to them?
Well, what I would say to them first and foremost, before you even find someone that you're going to talk to, know who you are as a person. Understand who you are as a leader. Be self-aware first, right? Because if you're going to talk to somebody in the facade that you are trying to say, well, I'm fine, and you're going to speak to someone without being self-aware, you're only going to, highlight the facade, So first be self-aware and be willing, give yourself permission to not be okay with yourself. Then once you do that, then you have to find somebody that you can trust. Everybody needs a mentor on every single level. And I say this all the time, from the person at the pool boy all the way up to, y'all's president. No, I'm just joking. The president of the United States. Everybody needs a mentor. And so those leaders who are feeling like they can't go talk to anybody, that they can't trust anybody, you've got to trust yourself first, which requires knowing yourself. And then you have to find a mentor, somebody that you can, first of all, pray with, somebody who sees your heart, and somebody who understands that they are really, really, really they can guide you through, but you really first got to give yourself permission not to be okay. And it's okay not to be okay. And I always say this, The reason why leaders are
That's
always
insane.
so burned out is because you take the brunt of that leadership all on yourself, and you don't allow other people to help you. So first, give yourself permission not to be okay. Find a mentor. And when you find that mentor, you let that person know exactly what it is that you need from them and be vulnerable with that person. So that's what I would say.
Just straight vulnerable. I mean, just give it out, just pour it out.
Or
And like you said, you have to find that individual, whether it's a mentor or a best friend or someone that you can just, as we say, you can show your dirty draws to.
exactly.
And that's another thing that I'm finding out with so many people. They're not able to truly be themselves or have that individual that they can really talk to. And
Yeah.
so I definitely recommend those leaders that are out there, seek, first of all, seek God and find that person that really has your back and
Yes.
has your interests at heart, because there are people out there that really are there for us and are on our team. And that's another thing. What would you say in regards to finding your team? Because, oh my God, it can be crazy trying to find your team players.
Mhm.
But do you think it is a necessity for leaders to have a team, or just one or two people and just going about their business? What would you say in regards to that before we end in our session for today?
So you
Because
say,
I think that's huge.
should they find their team, or what? Should they find their team, or should they work?
Yeah, what would you say in regards to teams? Is it good to have a team? Is it good to just maybe have one or two persons that been knowing forever? But what would you say in regards to team players? Do leaders need a team? Would they need a team?
They do. Every single leader needs a team. And when people say they don't need a team, I feel bad for them, because we need, people have that
Yeah,
whole, like, it's about me. I got this. I'm only one that's going to make this money from myself. And that's great.
right.
However, you need somebody that knows certain things. Everybody has a different personality or a leadership style or a behavior style. So you need a group of people that kind of can create the mold of your team. You need that person that's a driver. You need that leader, that person that's going to bulldoze you down and say, no, I need this at this place at this time. You need that individual that's the cheering section. Everybody, we're going to get this done. We're going to do this. You need the visionary of that team. You also need somebody that's going to observe from the background and say, you know
Right.
what? I think we should change this to this. And then you also need that analytical person that's going to look at all of those three of those other behavior
Yeah.
styles and say, actually, guys, we need to switch it up to this, right? So when you have all those four different personality
Wow.
styles together and there's a mixture of the four, you have a well-working team, because everybody kind of knows how to work together in that realm. And so I actually teach that. And you really need, as a leader, you need a cohesive team. If you have all drivers on your team, you're never going to get anywhere, because everybody's going to be bulldozing together. If you have all of one personality, you're going to be doing the same thing over and over again. So you need to be well-rounded individual for yourself. And you also need to know who your team is and what type of personality or leadership style they have. So that's necessary to everybody's not cookie cutter. So you need to actually get to know your team, know what their strengths are, know what their challenges are, not their weaknesses. I don't like to use the word weakness, but know what their challenges are. So you as the leader can kind of help them grow into that better portion of their developmental stages.
That's good. And I want to say this real quick before we end this show on this afternoon. I loved it at the L.I.S.T tour when you delved into personality traits and all of those wonderful things. Because I know for me, I don't know, what am I, an A?
You were the D personality. You were that driver person that's saying, you don't do this done right now. We need that though. We do. It's kind of like,
and so I love it. But I loved it so much because you literally made us go to the boards in the room, and we wrote down everything about who we are, and it allowed me, even in the position that I am in, to begin to evaluate my personality and what is necessary to accomplish the goal that I need. And so I think for you guys who are watching this, I think you all definitely need to call on Lisa to come in and do this training with you guys, because I'm telling you, girl, I love that so much. We needed a part B, a part C, and a part D
Yes.
with that thing, because I never thought about it before.
Yeah.
And I began to realize what I needed. It was so in depth. So, girl, I want to say thank you on that. You want to touch a little bit on that? Because, honey, that was good.
Sure.
I started seeking people out.
And that's what you do. You end up noticing, you realize the 4 different personality styles, or the behavior styles, if you will. And then you start saying, I see. Yeah. She's this, she's that. But it really does help heighten the awareness of, there's some people in the world that you can just spend all day, all night with. You love them. They got great energy and all of that, right? And then there's some people, you see them walking in the room and you want to exit stage left because their energy is dark. They have like this dark cloud over them. So this personality assessment is called DISC. And the assessment actually shows you the reasons why you may have those feelings toward those people. And it's not really them. It's just their behavior, their personality. And so this class is really it's a workshop, and it can be done within a 90-minute time frame, or it can be done shorter, or we can stretch it out, because it also talks about you and your behavior style and how you deal with conflict resolution. So not only your behavior style, also how you deal with conflict among these other behavior styles. So if anybody works in a team, in a group, and you want to understand your team members more, or as a leader, if you want to understand those that you are in charge of more, this is definitely something that you would want to have at your work location. And now that we're here doing this, we've done it online. I've done it virtually through Zoom, but it's great in person because the interaction is amazing. But you leave there that day understanding
I loved it.
And as well as others' personalities. I even had this is my last thought. I even had someone come up to me a few years ago, this is before I got my doctorate, and they go, "Lisa, you saved our marriage." It was a husband and wife in there. And I started laughing like, "Oh, and the husband was the one telling me, and the wife goes, "No, we're very serious." Because now I understand why he does it, why he's so picky about everything, why he analyzes everything that I do, and why she is so, happy-go-lucky all the time and all inspirational, but now I get it. And so they understood each other more. So it just encouraged me to continue my education in that realm, because again, I want to help grow people in general, but ultimately I want to help grow leaders.
That is amazing. That is amazing, because I just simply loved it. I fell in love with it, but it opened up my eyes to who I connect with, because, I can be a piece of work. I can be a control freak. Okay, it is what it is, but it helps so much, and it helps so many people in the room to be able to navigate better when it comes to developing your team and having a team. Because as you said, as a leader, you have to have a team. Yes, you cannot do this solo. You need the different parts and every aspect of everything to be able to get through life, and not just for you, but to help people along the way and to build them as well. And so give me your final thoughts on this afternoon before we close out. Give us your information, where people can find you, and then give us your final thoughts on tonight when it comes to leaders.
So my information, well, I'll give my information in a second, but my final thought is, as a leader, really understand and trust yourself as a leader. Trust your ability to lead. And that's even for parents. As a parent, you're a leader, right? You've got to trust your parenting. You've got to trust that you raised your children the right way. So same thing with leaders. You have to trust that when you are granted the permission, and I say permission because God gives you the permission and the door is open for you to be in that space. So when you are granted the permission to become a leader and lead other people, trust your leadership, delegate to other people. Stop trying to do the whole thing yourself. You can't do everything on your own. You could, but how effective is it when you're doing it on your own? And the quality of life as a leader matters. You don't want to do everything yourself, because you will suffer from burnout. And it's really simple. Hand that off to somebody. That includes understanding and trusting your own leadership style. And so, so that's what I would say. And then again, have a team. Have a team. Don't try, like I said, that don't try to do it all yourself. Have a team. Be vulnerable. There is strength in vulnerability.
Yeah.
Take yourself down that space where you are willing to expose your feelings to those that you are leading. They will see you as touchable, as approachable, and as relatable. And you want your team to see you as a human and see those things. So my information, my website is oh, I'm sorry. Oh,
I said, that's good. That's good.
Thank you. So my website is leadersgrowleaders.com. So the word spelled out, leadersgrowleaders.com. My social media is it's Lisa Speaks. I'm sorry, L-Y-S-A Speaks. That's my Instagram. And so if you want to, reach out to me, go to my website. It automatically sends it to my email address is grow at leadersgrowleaders.com is my email address. And so I'm happy to speak with anybody on any level of leadership, professional development of any type. And Ms. LaTanya, I want to say thank you so much again for this platform. This has been amazing. And you're right, 30 minutes went by really quick. I have a lot to say about a lot of stuff. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much for being here. And for you all that are here and for you all that will watch the replay, it'll be up on YouTube on our channels, and you can always go back and get the information that you need. And definitely, I would say connect with Lisa. She is simply phenomenally phenomenal. We've had her tour, and I mean to tell you, she has just been such a great asset to the people that were in the room and to me. And I appreciate you so much, lady, beloved.
Thank you.
As I say.
Yes, I appreciate it.
Amazing. And so, yeah, and so on today, you guys that are out there, especially as we're going crisis and as we're dealing with so much, stay safe, stay encouraged. Pick up a book, pick up your Bible, whatever you need to do to stay in the place of sanity. Make sure you're doing that, because we will get to the other side. It is coming. And so thank you so much once again, Lisa. I appreciate you all. And until we all meet again next Monday, I will see you, and take care of yourselves. Thank you, lady.